Now, Sheriff Joe Arpaio is a man that stood up. I was telling Dominic Tarczynski, our Polish member of parliament, when Sheriff Joe stood up, the country wasn't really ready for a man who was going to confront political correctness. People forget that he addressed the problem of illegal immigration and enforcing the law long before others, but he also addressed the idea that we were coddling our prisoners. Do you remember the stories about Sheriff Joe? His prison was actually unpleasant to be in. You didn't get cable television. You might have to wear pink jumpers instead of blue ones. And he started a conversation probably almost 20 years ago about how we live and how we prioritize who is valuable and who is maybe in trouble or not as valuable. And I don't mean it as a moral judgment. I mean it as a how do we live together? How do we work together? How do we function? And across the country, Sheriff Joe became America's sheriff. I mean, we had America's mayor after 9/11, which was Rudy Giuliani, and we always remember that. Those of us that remember just a few weeks ago, that anniversary, certainly meaningful. But Sheriff Joe became America's sheriff, and he started a conversation that came rippling through, and I would say led directly to President Trump. And if I can say, he lived what most of us know, which is if you do the right thing, and you do it for the right reasons, and you communicate about it, and you work hard on it, they come for you. And at the end of his career as a sheriff, they came with millions and millions of dollars in elections to beat up on him and to try to take away what he believed in. And what they took away, no matter what they never could take away, was who he is and what he believes in. And even to this day, till last week, till 2 days ago, he is across the country leading people to understand what makes America great. We're so proud to have him here. We're so proud that our president is so close to him and supports him and what the president did for him. We agree completely because he is America's sheriff, and he's one of the great Americans we know, and I give you Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Sheriff?
Boy, great guy. Ought to make you my campaign manager. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. I see I think he's here, our Congressman Biggs from Arizona. Thanks, Congress. We need more congressmen like him, believe me. So thank you for setting an example and for your support. You know, I'm going to get a little personal. I very seldom do, but I have to do it because of Phyllis. And I'm going to have to go back to when I was born, which is many, many years ago. Not going to give you the date, but it was the same day, not the year, as our president, Flag Day, June 14. Hi. So, my mother and father came from Italy, legally. Well, hey, it's the way you're supposed to do it. And my mother refused to have an abortion, and she died giving birth to me. And I know Phyllis is listening from above. Also, my daughter and her husband adopted 4 kids when they were born. I'm not going to get into the background of the mothers, but it was not nice, and they could have had abortions, but they did not. So I have 4 grandkids of different races, which I never would have had if they had an abortion. So I'm honored for your appreciation to me last night, and it's an honor and privilege to be here before all of you. Now, just briefly, I'm going into my background. I'm not getting into all of it, but I turned out okay because after my mother died, my father and I bounced around from one Italian family to another, so there was 3 different families. that I grew up with. And then when I turned 18, I joined the Army when the Korean War broke out. And then I was a cop in Washington, D.C., walked the Blackbeat for 4 years, and then a cop in Vegas. And then my big career before sheriff was with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. I was head of the DEA in Turkey, Middle East, Mexico City, South America, Texas, Arizona. So I did learn that there was a U.S.-Mexican border in our area, which helped me when I became sheriff. Now, I retired from the DEA in Phoenix in 1982. My wife, of actually it'll be 61 years in 2 months that we've been married. So my wife had a travel business, and actually is still around. We're not making any money, but my son runs it. And she opened that business, so I retired after 30 years with the feds, joined her in business for 10 years. Now, I never got a free ticket, so I decided to run for sheriff in 1992. And I was 60 years old when I decided to run, which is kind of young, you know, what's 60? I never thought I'd be lasting 24 years as sheriff, and sometimes I wonder how I survived 24 years. And as the congressman knows, I'm the longest-serving sheriff in the history of Maricopa County, which is like third largest county in the United States. I believe it's bigger than 17, 18 states, so it is a big county in Arizona out of the 15 counties. So I became sheriff. Now, when I was a cop for all those years, you know, you lock them up and you throw them in jail, and that's where it ends. Fortunately, the sheriff, under the Constitution, runs the jails. I loved running the jails. That was a top priority that I took on. So I get a little heat sometimes. Now, you heard of the tent city. Well, I made a promise when I ran that I would put up Korean War tents if I was elected. And I was elected, had trouble finding the tents. I didn't want to pay for them. In fact, I had to go to New Mexico for all the military people in the audience. You probably know what a midnight requisition is. So I picked up about 50 tents, free of charge, built them in the desert, went on from then. Now, I took some heat. Actually, I had 4 presidential candidates visit me in the tents, so they could not be that bad. Remember Senator Dole? He came in. Phil Gramm of Texas, great guy, senator, he came in. Governor Wilson, California, he came in. John McCain came in. So why would they come to me for my endorsement if it was that bad? Now, when they hit me on the tents, I say something all the time, and they have to shut their mouth. Because I always said, if our men and women can fight for our country and live in tents, what's wrong with convicted criminals that live in tents? By the way, they're all convicted. So I'm not going to go into all our programs, pink underwear, yeah, okay, the pink underwear. They were stealing the white underwear, so I figured dye it pink so we'll know they're smuggling our underwear out of the jail. That's the official reason. The other reason is they hate pink. Why would you give them a color that they like? So we did a lot of different things in the jail system. And another thing that nobody talks about, we have the best drug prevention educational program in the country, domestic violence programs, a lot of different programs for the inmates. So I may be classified as tough and mean, but we still have educational programs. In fact, I started the first high school in a jail system. We always had the GED program. So I believe give them a chance. You know, they can still eat the bologna sandwiches, which, by the way, I went vegetarian, so now they have to eat vegetarian, which is good for their health. You know, it's good. Also saves some money. So, so that's the program in the jails. Now, I don't want to say this, but since I'm an equal opportunity guy, we did have the chain gang, men, and I figure, why should we discriminate against women? So we put the women on a chain gang, first one in the history of the world. So now it has nothing to do with, I was running for Senate, and you know, I had all the women there. I was the only guy, but I don't know how that worked out, quirk of fate, but that's the way it is. So that's our jail program. Now, I did get a little trouble. Let me get to President Trump for a minute, because that's personal too. Let me get it off my shoulders here. I was with President Trump from day one, July 2015, when he had his first rally, happened to be in Phoenix. Now, nobody would show up. I mean, I didn't see all these politicians show up. They should have had the courtesy at least show up, whether they liked him or not. So I'm stuck introducing him. In fact, the only time I heard, he sent me a little note years ago on another matter. So here I am introducing him. I knew about his hotels. So I remember three things I said. One is we were born on the same day. Not the same year, I got him by a few. And then I said there's a silent majority out there. That's when everybody started clapping. I mean, they were already standing, so I didn't get a standing ovation, but they were there. Hit him on that. Then I hit him on another thing that I don't really want to talk about. But let me just say this. It happens to do with a fake government document. I think some of you will know what I'm talking about. So, and I've been in law enforcement for over 55 years. One thing I learned is you always make sure you get the probable cause and evidence before you go public. So you have to take my word for it after all those years that document, I'm not saying which one, is a fake. Believe me. So I can't get anybody to look at it. Nobody. And I'm a law enforcement guy. When you get probable cause, someone had a look at the case. Nobody. And I'm very, very, very sad about what's going on in our country today. Very sad. I mean, we got everybody going after the president, trying to destroy the president. And another thing I said when I introduced him, I said, you are going to be our next president. Maybe I'm psychic, and I'm going to get psychic again. He will be doing a second term when he gets reelected in 2020. No doubt about it. That silent majority is still there, believe me. And people like you are very critical to his reelection and what's going to happen in, 52, 53 days in our country. So I want to thank all of you for that. And I've introduced the president so many times. Another personal situation that has occurred during the, I'm trying to figure, I was in court at the time on a witch hunt, and I'm not going to get too far into that except to say I have never in my federal career dealing with federal judges, I was with the Department of Justice for many years, never has seen the bias of this federal judge, what he did to me. I'm not going to get into his wife that's in a Mexican restaurant, saw two chums from high school, and they said, what's your husband do? Oh, he's a federal judge. Really, a federal judge? Yes, he's going to do everything he can to take down our sheriff here in Arizona and make sure he's never elected, notwithstanding the fact that his brother-in-law works for this big law firm that the Attorney General came from, the previous Attorney General, to join Trump, and they started this case against me 8 years ago, racial profiling. And we were authorized to do that because my people were trained by ICE and I signed contracts. And that judge here, his brother-in-law, that's the same law firm against me, representing the ACLU. The other judge refused to give me a jury trial, charged me with the wrong charge. Day before early voting, the Obama prosecutors said they're going to charge me with contempt of court, a misdemeanor, by the way, same as a barking dog. And then during the election process, while the voters were going to vote, they charged me with this misdemeanor to get rid of me. And another certain law firm joined forces with Soros with his $4 million against me. So they got me in a general election. But that's okay. There's an old saying, what goes around comes around. So I'm not done yet. I did send a 26-page letter to our new Attorney General. Naturally, I don't get an answer because I want that Attorney General to investigate everything that occurred against me, because if they can do it to me, they can do it to you, believe me. So during that process, I was in court. By the way, I think I got 2 traffic tickets in my life. Not saying I probably deserved more, but 2. That's my whole life, criminal. 2 traffic tickets, and I'm sitting in a defense court with all the, people that don't like me and all that, being charged with a contempt of court. I don't think anybody really knows what that means anyway, including the judges. So we have to get rid of that Ninth Circuit appellate court and get it out of there. And I'm very happy that our president is naming some real federal judges for a change, including the Supreme Court. So at least something can be done in the Judicial Committee. And I see our congressman, where is he? Did he leave? Okay, he's on the Judicial Committee for Congress, so I know he'll fight for what's right. Now, during the course of the trial, my wife came down with cancer, and she always looked at Fox. Actually, Fox these days forgot my name. I don't know why they blackballed me the past year. I've been dealing with those people for 24 years. All at once, they forgot how to spell my name. I wonder what that's about. Maybe they don't like the fake document that they know I can talk about. So I didn't say what the fake document was. I'm not talking about General Flynn. It's really amazing. I think they got him. He forgot to check something on a document, and they go after him. What about the other guy that had a fake government document? I can't figure that one out. Yeah, I can figure it out. So my wife's watching Fox because that's taken her mind off the treatment. And she loved and loves Trump. So I told Trump that. When I met him, I've been with him several times, what he did for my wife indirectly, and he's called my wife right away. He's called my wife several times, including a couple of weeks ago. So here's a man that has a heart that not many people understand. So I know it personally. And my wife was cured by the Mayo Clinic 3 months ago. So with all the prayers, she was cured. So you never surrender when you're sick. Never surrender. You never know what upstairs has what's going to happen. So about 6 months ago, now I have a right to have a hero. I don't, anybody can have all the heroes they want, it's up to them, but just me, I never really had a hero. So about 6 months ago, I woke up and I said it took 75 years. I didn't want to say add 10 years to it, because when you're born, I don't think you know what the word hero means. So I gave a 10-year span on that. So when I said 75 and I gave 10 years, you got an idea that I'm a senior citizen. So I woke up and I told my wife, I finally found my hero. And that happens to be our president. Now, it has nothing to do with the pardon. I never asked for the pardon. He gave me the pardon. I appreciate that, but I didn't ask for it. I was ready to go to federal prison for 2 or 3 days, which would be great. Get good food, 3-day meals, play a little Italian bocce. But it didn't work that way. I'm sure the judge didn't like it. I had 10 lawyers on this. 10 lawyers for a misdemeanor. I had to raise millions of dollars to defend myself on a misdemeanor. Think of that, a misdemeanor. I'm going to go, what's it, a record, Guinness record? I want to find out if anybody ever in history spent the money I did on a misdemeanor. Same time when a barking dog, you charge someone with a barking dog. Figure that one out. So I'm pretty good in raising money as the sheriff. I mean, I had a lot of support out there, and I hope I still do. So sometimes you can't figure out what's going on. So I said he's my hero. NBC interviewed me about 2 weeks ago. They tried to get me, Oh, is Senator McCain your hero? And I said, wait a minute. 6 months ago, I knew who my hero was. That was President Trump. So I worked around that one pretty good. Nothing against the senator. We have to appreciate his service and all that. So that was what I said about President Trump. And I will be with him from day one, which I was, until the end. I'm not going to call it the bitter end. It's not going to be a bitter end, to the end. So the media says, by the way, they call me a convicted felon. Somebody wrote a recent book, I won't say who did that just recently, but he called me a convicted felon. I'm not a convicted felon. So, they could take away my gun, voting rights if I'm a convicted felon. I'm convicted of a dog barking charge. So what I'm going to do is continue on. I did lose the Senate race. I came in late. I didn't have any money. It took time to raise some money. My opponents had millions of dollars, both of them they carried over. But I was doing it for our president. I was hoping by some miracle I could get elected and get to Washington as a senator and watch his back. But there's other ways to watch the back, which is probably more important being a citizen. I don't have to worry about, I'm pretty cautious when I'm controversial, but I know how far I can go to survive. So what we're going to do with my associates is open Protect America First, PAC. So what we want to do is raise the money, make sure Trump gets money that we raise, but the main thing is to get good candidates to run for office, to believe in Trump and our country, and our real Republicans, and help them on their campaign, hoping that we can get them reelected. So that's one issue I'm involved in, the war on cops. I'm tired of everybody going after cops, so I'm going to be helping them. And I'm the honorary chairman of that organization, so I'm going to keep speaking out. Power of the mouth. I don't have the gun to shoot anybody anymore, but I got the mouth. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I want to thank all of you for the great work you do, and I never got to meet Phyllis, but I'm going to do what I can for the right to life, patriotism, protect the Second Amendment, get rid of these phony federal judges, and support all of you. And so whatever I can do to help, I'm going to be here. And thank you for their nice remarks. Thank you.